Hey guys, welcome back to Stop Talk and Roll, where we break down jiu-jitsu rounds. Today we have Dom on the bottom here, Dan on top. These guys have a pretty good back and forth round. I don't think any submissions occur in here, but it's a good back and forth with a lot of movement. So definitely some good jiu-jitsu to see. It's been a minute since I've recorded these, and we've been working on training in a much different style. We've really brought into ecological psychology and ecological dynamics in order to learn. And basically, the long story short is we don't teach techniques anymore, and we do all live training at all times. This is heavily influenced by the constraint-led approach, meaning that we give constraints to our players in order to learn. It's a very short version of it, and I'm probably butchering it, but that's essentially what we're doing. Right here, though, this is towards the end of the class where these guys are getting some regular rounds in. So these guys, Dan and Dom here, are doing a 6-minute live round. You guys, if you've trained jiu-jitsu, you know what this looks like. This is just a regular roll now. But they're implementing a lot of the things we've been working on. The things we've been working on is immobilization as it leads to submissions, right? As it leads to breaking and strangling the other player. So both of these players are trying to go about that. Dan's on top right now, so a little bit more in the driver's seat, looking to get around the legs and arms and head in order to secure immobilization on center mass, getting control of center mass. So that's the hips, spine, and chest and back, torso, if you will. And one of the things that I really liked about this, which was pretty cool to see, was how much these guys were able to move and dissuade movement when this certain condition I kept seeing popping up as I watched this roll, which is their ability to trap the mid joint, which kind of makes sense, meaning the elbows and the knees, which kind of makes sense because immobilization is going to occur heavily when you're able to pin the person's shoulders or cover the other person's hips. And those are the base joints of the elbow and the knee, respectively. But you'll also notice how much mobility each of these players have when those knees and elbows are free. So as we just saw there, Dom was able to, so just because it happens so much, right now, Dan's in a very dangerous position, or Dom's in a very dangerous position. Dan's in a very good attacking position on top, and his knee is in front of Dom's hip. So it's creating a lot of immobilization as far as Dom's concerned. It's very hard for Dom to like turn his hips right now, but also it gives Dan mobility. It's not that hard to move for him to move his hip and to move his knee around because all that's caught is his foot. Would it be better if its foot's free? Yeah, for sure, but it's not awful, right? So Dom knows this, so he intentionally, you'll see it right here in a second, just pushes that knee down, right? Keeps it in place and is able to wedge his leg behind it. So now that leg is trapped, okay? And Dan's going to have to free it. Now, it looks like he's already in place for it. No, it's is the knee back out? Can't really see from this angle. Hopefully I move. I'm the one filming it. But you see Dom is able to get from, he's still not in a great position by any means, but he's able to definitely improve the situation he's in. And look, Dan had to free his leg first. This makes sense. We want to, if you're thinking about passing the guard, but if we think about the function of why things work or what's the point of them, right? Trapping that leg is going to reduce the mobility of Dan, which is going to give Dom a better chance to reverse the position or stand up or submit or do whatever. Right, and you could see here the same thing is true with the upper body now. So Dan is trying to isolate this arm, attack this arm, and look how much pressure he needs to put on to control this arm right now because he's not behind or doesn't have inside control in the armpit, which lets him get control of the elbow. Right now, that elbow, if he isn't holding this hand and pinning this shoulder, that elbow is going to move free. Right? So he's going to want to get to a position where he doesn't have to control both. You could do that with an underhook. Dom fights that back, or you could do that with an overhook, right? So he fights over, looks to get it there. Looks like he's not going to get it. Let's see what happens. Yeah. And, we're hyper-focusing on one little interplay here, but there's a lot of things that are happening. Dan, typically I wouldn't recommend what Dom's doing. However, Dom's able to do a lot with this. And just because it's probably not advisable to do something like this, especially, this is a good lesson for everybody right now. Maybe it's not advisable. It doesn't mean it won't work. And if you don't respect it, if you don't do anything about it, it can lead to bad things, which, it leads to an eventual reversal by Dom, just controlling the head. Now, lesson learned here, one of the most, the game that's always going on in jiu-jitsu is get on top, stay on top, hold the other person down. And Dom, you need to obviously keep him down here. Yeah, I mean, it's just, you're going over the top the same time Dam's popping his hips out, right? So if you continue to put pressure on the hips, if you find a way to keep those hips on the floor, you'll get that. So something, right? So you reach over the top. That's not keeping the hips on the floor. So his hip mobility is free, right? He has hip mobility. So I would here look to keep those hips on the floor, driving into him down in this direction. But Dan's able to get back on top. And look, he's controlling those hips. Same thing. And now again, look, that fight for that inside position underneath the elbow. You see this throughout the roll, that these guys are constantly looking for those. It's inside position, but again, you could see the mobility or lack thereof when those mid joints are captured, right? Or if you could think about it, when the shoulder or hip is immobilized, however you want to think about it. I like that. I like that. Beautiful. Get chest to back connection. Let's try on that. Let's see what happened there. This is good. I mean, Dom immediately gets his hips out and turns. I mean, you could look to come up on top. Like if you know, I mean, yeah, he's already spinning hard that way, so maybe not. So you turn. Give yourself some space to move there, right? Like the tighter you are, the more connected you are to someone, the less mobility you're going to have. So if you disconnect a little bit, you're going to be able to move a little bit more. So you do a good job of maintaining connection, but just the connection isn't that great, right? You have chest to shoulder right now, which doesn't really do much for you. So if you were to loosen up just a tad bit and shift your hips back, that's going to give you more mobility to pop up on top and get to, I really got to get a new, when I make a circle with this thing, when I draw really fast, it makes this line. I don't know why. Anyway, if you disconnect a little bit, you're going to give yourself some mobility so you can get the chest to back and actually have a meaningful connection there. Also, realistically, you're probably going to end up with a belly down back control, right? So like a reverse mount or however you want to think about it, but his stomach's going to be on the floor and you're going to have chest to back. So you're going to want to probably let these hooks go. You can have a body triangle on someone that's completely prone, right? Yeah. And that does suck. If you have longer legs, you can get away with it. I don't like it because it just hurts my knees. But it is really good. So if you could loosen up a little bit, pop up on top, I think you're good to go on that. Yeah, see, like you try to there, but then Dom's already back to his hips, or back to his knees, I should say. And he's able to push his weight into you, which is to keep you down now. Something else you can consider, right? So looking for those base joint controls, right? Look to fight possibly to get underneath his armpit here. So like if you were able to get under his armpit with your hand, and latch onto your own leg, you might be able to leverage him over this way. Just things I'm thinking might work. Something to try, play with. I'm really curious. Classic. I'm really curious how this is all going to look now that we've been doing no technique, like this program, Stop, Talk, and Roll. Because I had to restart this a few times. We're getting towards the end here. I had to restart this a few times because I was not sure how to do this anymore. It's very different. Again, the reason why the heel hook and the leg's able to get out is while they're wrapped around the knee, there's no meaningful control on the hip. So the hip's able to move, the hip's mobile, therefore the knee could be mobile, therefore Dan's able to avoid any serious heel hook threats. Right? Like that could be bad, but it's just so shallow. He's got, like, if this is on the floor, much different situation. Dan's in an awful position. But because he's standing and his hips are mobile, he can as long as he keeps his heel from getting caught, he can move his knee. He can be safe. That's why when we do leg entanglements, it's really important to try to destabilize the top player, get them on their butt, and keep them down, because that limits their mobility. They don't have, Dan has, I mean, if the floor is right here, right, Dan doesn't have any room to move. But obviously there is no floor. He's got all of this space to play with. He's going to be fine, right? As long as he doesn't let that heel get caught. And he gets out and he's good. Guys, thank you so much for watching.
Thank you so much for watching. I'm sorry. What was that, Jimmy? Oh, you want me to remind them to like, comment, subscribe, and share the video if they can? Thanks, Jimmy. Right, and if they want to be on the show, they can check out the description below and submit a round to Stop, Talk, and Roll. Yeah, I have a bunch of other videos. I got this one, and that's a good one, and that one's my favorite. That one, the guy's kind of a jerk, but like it's a good.